What's up? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Mariah and Steph. Steph, what's up? Happy Thursday. How you doing?
Happy Thursday, Mariah. I'm in a great mood. I don't know why. Maybe it's all these updates, good updates we got from the 49ers, but ready for today's show.
Good. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Maybe it's because we're on a bye week, so we don't have to stress this week.
Could
We just
be.
get to kick our feet up and relax and watch all the other fans stress and their teams lose and all that fun stuff. So, like Fred Warner said today, I hope they all lose. Let's start with, some news that came out today, and that is about the players back at practice. As you can see, those that are on my channel on the thumbnail, Eric Armstead, a huge addition that we're getting back to practice over this bye week. These last games, man, like I always say that he's the player that like people never appreciate until he's gone. Like when he's out with injury, it's like everybody's an Eric Armstead fan all of a sudden because you see how much he really means to this defense, He might not always get on the stat sheets with sacks and whatnot, but man, like his presence is definitely missed and needed on that defensive line because the defense has kind of been a mess against stopping the run since he's been out. I mean, I don't know, but it's just I'm glad that he's back. The practice reports coming from Nick Wagner and Ken Inman kind of had something that didn't match. So I don't know who is supposed to be, but Nick Wagner had said the 4 players still not practicing are CMC, Cleveland Farrell, Gibson, and Feliciano. Inman had said the 4 players not practicing are McCaffrey, Greenlaw, Gibson, and Feliciano. Now I can see all 5 of those players not practicing yet. And that's just the way I'm going to run with it till I know any better. And really, I don't know, necessarily, like, do you have any worry about any of those players? Because I think Greenlaw, from the sounds of it, like him and I'm surprised he wouldn't be practicing today because it kind of seemed like, remember that they were like last minute scratches for the Rams game, Greenlaw and Kittle, but it seemed like they just came up with some excuse at the last minute to, check something off so that they didn't have to play. That's how I took it. And from what Shanahan said after the game, it didn't seem like it was anything to worry about. So if he's still not practicing, that's kind of strange. I don't know that I'm necessarily worried about that, though. CMC, I think, I would be worried have they had to play this week maybe, or had he had to actually suit up and we had to win the Rams game, maybe. But I'm not really worried about, I know that even I think seriously, like if he had his left leg hanging off, he would still suit up and show up for that playoff game. Like that's how bad I think that winning a championship means to him. So I'm not really
still score a touchdown.
Right. I wouldn't doubt it. I seriously, like, I would bet money that he would still score a touchdown. I don't care if he showed up with 2 legs missing. And he's like a chicken nugget out there. Gibson, what his said is a quad injury. So I don't know if that's really something
that he missed last. I mean, he missed last week with that too.
And then Feliciano is a back, which having it back, being somebody that has backer injuries, like I don't know how these guys can even possibly suit up and play after they've had like these serious back injuries. Like there's days I can't even get up and walk to the bathroom, and these guys are still going out there to suit up and play football again. Like it's crazy. But out of those, 5 players, are you worried about any of them not being ready when the 49ers do take the field in a like week and a half, I guess now?
Mariah, I'm not worried about any of them. And I think just because there's so much time between now and the next time that they play, and I think Kyle Shanahan kind of set the expectation for what some of these guys' statuses were going to be in practice this week. He did say for Christian McCaffrey, he wasn't going to practice this week, but he'll be back at practice next week. Cool. All we need to know is that man's going to be fine for when the 49ers, play again in the divisional round. So the Greenlaw thing, I was kind of thinking it was the same thing. Not that it was nothing, when they said that those guys weren't going to play in week 18, but I did think it was like not going to be super serious. Like for Kittle, it was the back spasms, but he's all right. But when you're dealing with anything that has the word Achilles in it,
Yeah.
you want to be a little more careful with that, right? So again, Kyle on Tuesday kind of set that expectation and said, we're going to be smart with Greenlaw this week, which I totally get. There's no reason, to risk anything worsening throughout the week just because you want to practice him. He can practice next week, all right? And they can ease him in however they want. I think he's going to be fine. Feliciano, I'm not worried about. Gibson, I'm not worried about. Those guys should be back. I think Gibson on Tuesday, Kyle said that he would be back at some point in practice this week.
Oh, okay.
But even if that doesn't happen, like there's still another week to go.
Yeah.
And so, no, I'm not worried about any of them. Obviously, the only one that's like the obvious not going to be out there is Clinton Farrell.
Yeah. Which, man, that was so crazy because I didn't even see him get hurt in the game. It's like before I knew it, like I was just seeing on Twitter, X, whatever, that people were posting like him getting carted off the field. And I'm like, damn, what happened, And like for him to start every game of the season and be healthy, and like he hasn't been like a big number stat sheet guy, but he's been a solid piece for us across that D-line this season, And then he starts every game this season, and you're in this game that doesn't really mean shit, but unfortunately you have to have some players to suit up and get out there, right? You still have a game to play, and you lose somebody like that right at the beginning of the game. Like you hate to see shit like that. Back in practice though, so participating, and whether it was, some had little bit of participation, some participated a lot full, but to have them back is the main thing, and we definitely have time for this is trending to the right direction. So participating in practice, like I mentioned, Armstead, huge. Kittle, because they kept him out of the last game. Brown is back at practice, so at least we're getting that safety spots kind of cleared up there. And Odom is back at practice as well, so that's huge for special teams. Ambry Thomas is back. We know that he's been out. He had the surgery on his hand. I would expect though, with usually especially the secondary guys, it seems like they're able to play like with some type of club as long as they're able to protect themselves, and not worry about re-injuring that injury. It seems like for the most part, they're able to still play and be able to make an impact out there. And Jennings finally cleared concussion protocol. Man, like I was getting so worried because it's like every week I'm expecting him to come back, and every week for the last couple of weeks it's like, oh, still in concussion protocol. It's like something like that is so scary, like something with the brain. And normally we see guys be able to get a concussion in one game, and it seems like maybe I'm just going to pull this number out of my head, but 9 out of 10 times they're like ready to come back the next game. Most clear that concussion protocol. Some lie their way through. We know that guys know how to get their way through, right? But for a guy to be out, multiple games for that concussion, like that was really starting to scare me. So like I'm glad he's back. I know that he's not one of our top wide receivers, but he definitely brings that energy. Like we've been missing him like as that third down guy to go to. And that you can always count on him to bring that thump, right? Like he's always going to be out there getting in the binds, getting in the, playing that game with the DBs from the other team. And like, we need that, like I love like what he brings to the team. So yeah, I'm super excited to be getting those guys back. Like you said, we have plenty of time with not having to play for a week and a half. So like this bye week to me came like at a perfect time, because it seems like it's been forever since we've had our bye week. And, the team did pretty well staying healthy this season. We know that as the season, and most of the times it does happen, right? Wear and tear goes on these guys' bodies. They've just put in 16 games, of hitting each other like freaking car accidents out there. And we get a bye. Like this is huge that they're able to rest that. And the fact that they clinched the 1 seed and were able to rest a lot of the guys with during the Rams game. So, we have that time to get these guys back from injury. with that being said, with the rest, do you think, like, where do you stand? Because I know it seems like people are split that, either the guys are going to be resting too much because, like, Purdy, we'll use him for example. He didn't play at all in the Rams game. He's obviously not going to play this weekend because they don't play. So, it's going to be all that time till he actually plays our football game again. We know he's practicing, he's getting those reps out there, right? Even up to the Rams game, he practiced like he would have been a starter. So, but do you think, where are you at with it? Are you worried that that's too much rest, that they're going to have rust? Do you think the rest is needed? Where do you stand with that whole thing?
Well, I think Kyle did a good job of making sure that not everyone got rest, last week in week 18, because they certainly didn't need 2 weeks worth of games to rest, right? Like just having this week of a bye week, I think is perfectly fine. And so I think he did a good thing by balancing it out and making sure some guys at least played like the first half of the first quarter in that game. I also think that the way that Kyle Shanahan takes practice so seriously, they're going hard in practice. You best believe they are going hard in practice, and for that reason, they know they're not playing a game this week. They know that they're going to have the weekend off, so these are your days to kind of get your body in that mode of acting like or having your body feel like they're going to play a game. And so it doesn't lose that, it doesn't build the rust, right? So I think that's been a point of emphasis that Kyle has been communicating to all the players, and they're, I feel like they're taking it to heart. I mean, you just see how competitive both George Kittle and Fred Warner, were talking about practice, how the offense felt like they won the day, and then the defense is like, no, actually, Fred's like, no,
Yeah, I
we
love that.
actually, we actually beat them today. That's what you want, because it's like they're playing a game with each other out there. And that's going to keep them from building any rust. And I think they're going to go into it very focused once they go into the divisional round. They've been here before. There's some guys who were part of that 2019 team the last time they had the first round bye. So I think they kind of know what to expect. Those guys are seems seen as veterans now, so they kind of tell the rest of the group what to expect and what they need to know to prepare for that. But they've been here before, most of those guys and the coaches, so I think that'll be what carries them into having that momentum going into next week.
Yeah, I agree that, like, I never even thought, like, oh, the rest is going to be a problem. Like, I went into it looking like, shit, we need this rest, right? Like, we're getting back key guys from injury, other guys that have been playing, they've been playing through injury. Like, at the end of the season, like, it's never a bad thing to be able to rest the body, right? And then, like, I turn, and it's like the media is like, oh, is it going to be too much rest and this and that? And then you see shit on, social media, too much rest and blah, blah. And it's like, that never even crossed my mind that it was a problem. Some other news that kind of happened, well, that's happening all week. A lot of teams are getting rid of coaches, head coaches, position coaches. Obviously, one that kind of affects us is Pete Carroll, which was, man, I was shocked when I seen that news yesterday. I really wasn't expecting him to be one that, and then coming out today was the Bill Belichick news, him separating or mutually parting ways from the Patriots, which is crazy because when I think about, my entire life that I've watched football, from the time I can remember watching football till now, he's been on the sidelines of the Patriots. Bill, and it was still weird. It was weird with the whole Tom Brady thing, because at the time, looking back, it's like Tom Brady, all I knew from him my entire life basically was as a Patriots quarterback. So it's kind of crazy. Yesterday they had put out this list about the, let me pull it up. It was longest tenured coaches in the NFL. And when they put it out yesterday, Kyle was 5th. So quickly today, he moved up to 4th. The names above him are Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Andy Reid, and then it lists the years, right? That they started coaching at the spot that they're at now. So it says Kyle Shanahan next, and it says 2017, and then it says Sean McVay 2017, Sean McDermott 2017. So I guess they would all be tied for fourth from the looks of this list. I don't really remember them at the time, but so, so we just lost the number one guy. He was Bill Belichick on the list, right? He had been there since 2000. Crazy.
24 years.
Yeah. So I had that list ready for us to talk about, the job that Kyle's done with this team. And, obviously John Lynch, you could throw it in there. But when I logged into social media today, I started seeing all this going on about if Kyle Shanahan doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, is he getting fired? So I thought that we would kind of wrap that all in together as Kyle being weirdos. And Kyle being the fourth longest tenured coach at the time. To me, he hasn't been perfect, right? Of course, nobody's perfect. But when he took over as the head coach, what we had been through and what I was expecting out of him being a first-time head coach and not knowing too much about him, obviously knowing he was the offensive mind for the Falcons at the time, whatnot. But I didn't have all these super high expectations for the kid. He's coming in, no facial hair, looking like he's 20 years old, has no experience, all this shit. And it's just okay, so I was just okay, we'll see where this goes. I wasn't expecting that he's going to come in and take us to the Super Bowl because we had seen coaches fail for so many years already, right? My thoughts on shit were just so down low because the shit that we had been through as fans. So when I look back at at Kyle's tenure now, I think him and John have done a great job. The fact that they've been able to build this 49ers team, a contending team that we're talking about could possibly be winning the Super Bowl this season, or maybe just coming up short, unfortunately. They built this from the ground up. They weren't the Rams and went out there and bought a fucking Super Bowl win, had to buy all these players from other teams and, give up your entire future. Yeah, they made mistakes giving up the future to go after quarterbacks, but they needed a quarterback. We needed a quarterback. If we were going to win a Super Bowl, you had to fill that position. They built this entire team except for that position. And that's one thing I hold against them. You went out and got Jimmy Garoppolo, sold your whole soul for the guy with not knowing shit about him. Oh, he played a few games for us and and yet you made him the highest paid guy in the league, I thought that whole thing was too soon, but I was riding the hype too as a fan at the time. What are we to know, right? But I mean, so other than the quarterback position, which they have now made right, so I'm not going to keep beating them up over it. Yeah, they missed and they gave up first round picks for Trey Lance and they missed, but guess what? They got it right. We're here now. So, I mean, when if I'm hoping with all that I have that we win the Super Bowl this season, right? But I would have never expect that if we go deep, I mean, even if they go out in the next round, a team that gets a first round bye, I'm not expecting that you're going to fire your head coach the next that season. That was crazy when I pull open social media and see that. And I know people are always running with the file Kyle Shanahan after a bad game and yada yada, but come on. Where are you at with the whole John Lynch, Kyle, looking back at this team that they built?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done a great job. Yeah, I know that at every turn there have been certain fans who are, very reactionary, but that's who they are. I think regardless of the coach, regardless of what said coach has done, there's going to be fans who are super reactionary. And will overreact and say we need to fire this person at every turn. People did the same thing about D'Amico Ryans. People did the same thing about Robert Salt. Like there's so many times where people questioned, the coaching on this team after one slip, and so yeah, every coach is going to have a slip here and there, but it's no reason to fire a coach. I'll say this though. I mean, you see guys like Bill Belichick who had long tenures and really successful tenures. Pete Carroll, again, long and successful tenure. But they also won Super Bowls, and even that couldn't save them at this stage from being let go. So I do think, is there an expiration on Kyle Shanahan trying and not winning a Super Bowl? Yeah, I don't know when that is, but I don't think it's this year. I think he would get this year and and probably another one after that at the very least. But I don't think it would happen after this year. It would be pretty catastrophic if the 49ers couldn't get it done this year. I will say that. But I don't think it would be at the point of firing quite yet. And yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan has done a tremendous job. I mean, just from building the team, that was hand in hand with John Lynch and the scouting department and everything they've done. Building a culture. I think that's the biggest thing. The culture, because the culture runs deep, and that is what gets other guys on the team, new people on the team, to buy in. Yeah. That is what keeps it going. So that also like has an expiration, because we've seen Carroll and Belichick, fall out of that too. You at a certain point, like sometimes you can lose culture if you don't retain the certain guys or you don't keep it going. But that is definitely longer lasting than anything else, like having culture. Mike Tomlin with the Steelers, the reason that he doesn't have any losing seasons under his belt is the culture that he has built with that team. So that, above anything else, I think is very important and very valuable to what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have done in their tenure here.
Yeah, I agree. And what's up, chat? Hope everybody's doing great. What's up, Ashley? Good to see you. Appreciate you coming through. The next thing we were going to move on to, and what we're talking about coaches, is obviously we know that Steve Wilkes is, got a request from the Chargers to interview. I'm sure maybe with all these other head coaching openings that are coming along, there could be more. Obviously, we know Adam Peters, again, every single season, he's getting interviews for the GM job. That doesn't stop this season. Already from the last time I checked was the Commanders and Raiders. That obviously, again, might change and, more teams might request. Where do you stand? Like, the Adam Peters thing, like, are they going to ever just promote him? Are we going to end up losing him? Do you think this is the year? Like, every year it's like we finally get by and it's like, okay, he didn't leave us. Like, we know he's a Bay Area guy. Like, we know he wants to be there with the 49ers, but how long do you keep hanging on to just the hopes of a job? That, oh, hopefully one day I'll get to be GM, but we know he's passing up money. He's passing up a lot of stuff that he could go and be and have his own team, right? He don't have to have John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan breathing down his throat all the time, like he could be over there doing his own thing, making a lot more money. So it's just like, to me, I wonder, like, how long can we just keep hanging on to him without actually promoting him to GM? I wish that they would just promote John Lynch up into something. Like, we've seen them already give him a title change or addition to title or who knows what. And like when they did that, I thought, okay, here comes Adams promotion, but nope, we didn't see it. And now you guys are letting him go interview again for other jobs without promoting him again. And then the whole Steve Wilkes thing, like, and I've talked about this on my other shows this week, so I won't go into it too much, but I'm just tired of the whole, every single season we have our offensive coordinator, defensive coordinators interviewing for other jobs. Well, we're in the fucking middle of a playoff run. Like, I hate that. And I just wonder, like, how many defensive coordinators, like, I feel like we see, like, the Eagles, right? They lost this last season. They lost their offensive coordinator. They lost their defensive coordinator. They kept their head coach. Well, from the very first game that team stepped on the field, you could see the clear difference. And up until the very last game that they've played, like, you could tell they were missing those pieces. So the guys that they hired to take those places haven't done the job that those guys that left were doing. Well, we've seen our defensive coordinators, like, when we had Saleh, it's like we lost Saleh, and it's like, oh my God, we loved him. Who are we going to get to replace him? He did such a great job. And I feel like we got so lucky that we had D'Amico on the team and we were able to promote him. And obviously we know the amazing job that he did. And again, when he left, it's like, oh my God, how could we possibly find somebody to replace D'Amico, right? And it's like, again, Steve Wilks, for some reason, didn't get the head coaching job over there at the Panthers. Like, they're idiots over there. And he becomes available. And we're able to get him for the job. And it's like, we possibly might lose him now, and it's just like, how many times can we luck into, or like you said, the culture's there, but it's like, how there's not just guys with talent just hanging around on their couches waiting for teams to call them and be the defensive coordinator, so it's like, how many times can we keep finding new guys? Like, I just worry, so where you at with the whole Adam Peters, Steve Wilks? Like, if we do lose Steve Wilks this season, who do we replace him with?
I'll start with, I don't think Steve Wilks is leaving this season, and maybe I'm naive, but I don't see it happening this year. Possibly next, if he, has the same type of season that he had this year, next year. Yeah, definitely. I think he'll be on everyone's radar again, but I don't see it happening this year. But to kind of dispel your concerns about, how are the 49ers going to keep finding good replacements, how they keep lucking out in that department. Part of the reason it's not really lucking out. Kyle Shanahan has done a really good job finding replacements for his assistants, and it goes beyond just the defensive coordinator position. I mean, we know that at this point. So it's something Kyle Shanahan has shown and proven to be a strength of his, and I'm going to continue to trust him in that. I also think, so Steve Wilks was the first time that a defensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan came from outside of in-house, right? I think with another year under, more experience, I need Johnny Holland, for example, is one guy who has kind of been mentioned as a guy they're like trying to groom into that spot, but maybe he just wasn't ready last year to take that on. Maybe they didn't feel comfortable about that yet. Another year or two in his current role, maybe then they would feel good about promoting him to defensive coordinator if Steve Wilks were to leave, right? So I think there's always options in-house that you can turn to that, Kyle would know best who that would be if there is someone in-house. But if not, I mean, he's shown even outside he can find someone to kind of fill that role. So I'm going to continue to trust Kyle, and I'm not worried about it. At some point, is it gonna, maybe not be as high of a level as it was before? Yes. And, some could even argue with Steve Wilks. Maybe it wasn't at the level that D'Amico had it. Sure. So that's always a possibility. But with the offense now being pretty good and you have a quarterback you can work with, maybe finding the right defensive coordinator, not as important as it was maybe a year or two ago. But again, I don't think Steve Wilks is leaving this offseason. As for Adam Peters, it's getting really interesting, right? It's heating up. It's heating up for Adam Peters. He's a finalist of the Commander's job. And he's one of two finalists. So he could very well, decide to take that job. Or who knows? Maybe he's just using it as a bargaining chip. Maybe he does like San Francisco. He doesn't actually want to leave. But this is the closest I think the 49ers have been to him leaving that we've seen. So I don't know. Like, do they want to make Adam Peters the GM? Does John Lynch not want to be the GM? Like, would he be okay with, leaving that role to someone else? Not sure. I also do think that because there's been a lot of guys in their front office who have moved on, Martin Mayhew, Rand Carthon, all those guys, have gone to, greener pastures, you can say, or just other pastures. And, they wanted to grow. They wanted to move on, and the 49ers let them go. So they could feel the same way about Adam Peters. Like maybe they would be okay with letting him walk, for the reason that I mentioned, that maybe John Lynch does want to stay as the GM, right? And there is no further growth for Adam Peters with the 49ers. I think they would have to live with that. I think, again, there's guys in-house who would step into bigger roles. Tariq Ahmad, for example, director of college scouting. There's also RJ Gillen, who's the director of pro personnel, I believe. So they got guys in-house who are also moving up the ladder, who are eyeing probably Adam Peters' job, right? So I think the 49ers, the culture, there's always going to be a next man up, even in, the front office. So I'm not, it would be a bummer, I think, but I'm not too worried about it. And I know some people have mentioned, because Martin Mayhew went to Washington, he was their GM, potentially could be let go. As of right now, he's still with them, but depending on who they hire as the head of football operations, they might let him go after that. So Martin Mayhew all of a sudden becomes a free agent, and he can come back to the 49ers if he wanted to, if the 49ers wanted to bring him back. So there's a lot of possibilities, but I'm trying not to worry about it. I mean, I think the 49ers will be fine regardless.
Yeah. And I've seen this a lot. Italian Niner says, Richard Sherman, ring, ring, Richard Sherman, if Wilkes leaves, and says, I think Wilkes runs it back though. I agree. I do. And I agree with you too, Steph. I think that he doesn't leave this season. And Alberto had brought up about the Cardinals only interviewing him because of the Rooney Rule. And that's what sucks in the whole situation. And I talked about this, on last night's show too, is, if that's the situation that they're in, like, let's say they're already set on hiring Harbaugh as their head coach, and it's like, that they can't just do that, because now they have to fit into this Rooney Rule shit where they have to interview somebody, and it's unfortunate because we saw so many years, like Eric Bieniemy when he was with the Chiefs, they kept just interviewing and like each coaching hiring cycle, he would have like 4 or 5 interviews. Obviously, none of those people even planned on hiring him because they always went a different direction, but yet he was one of the only minority people that could get interviewed. So they have to meet that Rooney Rule qualification. And it's just like a whole unfortunate thing, because it's like these guys put so much time and so much dedication into what they do, and even so much time into getting ready for the interview. It's not something that's just easy, that they can just show up for without putting any work into it. And so you're constantly preparing for all these interviews. And it's like, you at a point you have to go into it thinking like, okay, I'm just doing this so that they can check off the Rooney Rule, thing. And it's like, I can't stand that whole thing. Hopefully one day we get to a point where like, we don't need that, like,
yeah,
the best coach for the job just gets the job regardless of anything else that stands in the friggin' way, So I kind of want to go, like, just looking back at this season, obviously, with the regular season being done, I think that this was a great season. Like I asked the guys on my show on Tuesday about, what season they thought as a fan, as a content creator, like just what season meant more to them, the 2019 season or the 2023 season. And all of us, very quickly picked the 2023 season. And, there's just so many different reasons why that is. So I have a bunch of different little categories to talk about, just looking back on this season. The first one I want to ask you, though, is just without having put any thought into, you don't know the questions that I'm going to ask you. So looking back on the season, the first thing that pops into your head about the season.
Brock Purdy. And just like, I think he surprised everyone, I think, this year, because I think us 49er fans knew that there was something about him, when he watched them close out the year for them last season. But I don't think that coming off of the injury he was coming off of, having this, not having an off season really
Mhm.
with the team, not having too much headway going into the season, that he would have the season that he did. Like, I think we hoped, I think we were very optimistic about it, but it truly was the best case scenario for the entire team, for Brock, for the fans, and it really feels like this this is it. Like, this is our quarterback. Like, that's what it
Mhm.
feels like. So it's great. I would say that's like the biggest thing that comes to mind about this season that's been different from years prior.
Yeah, and that's such a big thing, when you think about it. It's like that 2019 team was so that defense was so
Oh, very
freaking
good.
good.
Yeah.
Like, man. Um, but the offense, it's like they struggled to put up points. It's like so many games they had to rely on the defense to win games for him, and it's like this season, yeah, to have Brock Purdy has been huge. And it's like you said it, going into the season, a lot of us didn't know what to expect. He's
Mhm.
coming off of a surgery that not many people had gone through, especially at his position. And for him to come back faster from it than any of us thought, right? Like right after remember he got delayed, like his surgery got pushed back. He didn't even get his surgery when he was supposed to because of the swelling and all
Right.
this. So we're like already when that happened, everybody's freaking out. Like, is he going to be ready for the regular season? Blah blah blah. And then as things went, like people are putting out there, oh, it could be week 4, it could be week 6, it could be
Mhm.
week 2, it could be he could go on IR and then have to come off. And so like a lot of us didn't know what to expect, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's ready. The season hasn't even started and he's ready. But it was like, well, was he going to have arm strength? Was he going
Mhm.
to, and man, that kid, like, and I talk about this all the time. Like, I watched other football teams play, and it's like for so many years, like I've just been like envious that we didn't have that at quarterback, like why can't we have what those teams, like so many teams like would have an awesome quarterback and then have shit around them, and like you see this quarterback just there struggling, and it's like, well, we have an awesome team and no quarterback, we could like work something out here. But it's like I just wanted us to have like finally, like in my grown freaking life, could we have a quarterback that I could actually root for, and
Mhm.
we got that guy. Like, man, like he's been so good this season. Like to have him going through the season, like topping the charts, like, and of course, all the numbers, like all that shit don't always mean anything, but it's like, that's what the league goes off of. And like for him to always be first in so many categories. You come off a 3-game losing streak and he still finishes the league leading in most categories, like it's awesome. It's awesome. Um, your the best game of the season, your favorite game of the season.
Oh man. I have really bad memory, so I'm like, man, I hope I can remember. I mean, honestly, I think the two come to mind. The one against the Eagles, just because like it meant more than just that game. Like, we know
Mhm.
that. It was everything that we carried, or the players carried from the NFC Championship game, channeled into that game, right? And then I'll also mention the Thanksgiving game, getting that monkey off our backs. Like, we knew that. I think the rivalry had turned a corner already, because the 49ers had won, like, I think the previous, like, what, 2 matchups or so against
Mhm.
the Seahawks. So I think we already felt a changing of the guard in regards to 49ers Seahawks, but it felt so good to do it on Thanksgiving, like prime time, having our players on their field
Mhm.
eating that damn turkey. Like, it exercised demons. And for that to happen in a two what it was a 2-game stretch that those 2 games happened. So
Yep.
uh that was a tremendous time for us as fans. It was so much fun. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So yeah, I'd say those are the 2 games, like, neck and neck.
Um, I wrote down 4 just because I didn't know what you were going to go with. So the Philly one, of course, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And you talked about it, just like how much feelings, like going into that game and just everything about it. And then to just go in and whoop their ass, like so many people talk, oh, are these the 2 best teams in the NFL at the time? And like the 49ers literally broke the Eagles after that game. That they have been shit since. Like, and it's so wonderful. So, I mean, you have to say Philly, the Philly beat down 42-19, glorious. Also, like right there too, the Cowboys beat down 42-10.
Yeah, that was a good one
And
too.
just because like you kept every season, it's Cowboys season. They're gonna win it all this year. Like every year, it doesn't matter who they are suiting up. They could be suiting up John, Bob, Harry from freaking next door, and it'll still be their season. They're gonna win it all. It's like you get so sick of fucking hearing about it. And their fans are so delusional, just as delusional as the media. So they swore they were going to come in there and this was going to be different this time. They were going to beat the 49ers. Yeah. 42-10 beat down. Loved it. The Steelers game. And and I gave this, like I talked about this week. It's like, and part of that with all the Purdy questions going into how is his arm going to be? How's this? How's that? People weren't expecting, a lot of the media, the fans that I was, hearing from, we even had a fan of the content creator for the Steelers on the show, and she was just as delusional as all the rest, talking about, oh, it was going to be a pity party, and they were going to show that Purdy wasn't coming back from injury as himself, and it was going to be a beat down. He was going to have to go up against this big defense, the big bag bullies, Get the fuck out of here. 30-7.
They were really excited, really excited about Kenny Pickett because he played so well in the preseason. That's
Tiny Tim hands. Yeah, and look, he didn't even finish the season as their quarterback. Like healthy freaking scratch as the backup. And then my fourth one, and you talked about the Thanksgiving one, and I've talked about that so much that I didn't want to have to rant on about that game anymore, but is the Jacksonville game, because we're coming off of a 3-game losing stretch. Everybody's talking about, oh, the 49ers aren't who they thought they were and all this bullshit. And the Jags, they were on like a 5-game winning streak at that point. So people thought for sure
49ers kind of broke them too, maybe.
Yeah. People thought for sure we were going to go in there and lose 4 straight, and rude awakening for them guys too. 34-3 beat down. So the common theme here is that we went into all these games with, even though we could have been the way better team at the time, it didn't matter, because at each point in the season for these games, we went into it and the media thought we were going to lose. There's no way the 49ers are going to win. This team's going to be the one to stop the 49ers. This team's going to do it. The 49ers really aren't that good. And every time the 49ers showed up and shut their asses up. So great games of the season. A player that, once looking back on the season, a player that you saw the most growth from. Now, maybe over the entire season, or it could be growth from last season to this season, however you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say Purdy because I feel like that's too obvious, but Amber Thomas.
Steph don't have a memory. She's just gonna use Purdy.
I have terrible. I know, right? Yeah, I have terrible memory. Just the low-hanging fruit every time. I'm gonna say Ambry Thomas, man, and I see Callie in the comments saying Demo, definitely honorable mention there as well. But Ambry Thomas was literally not even starting last year. He was an afterthought, even at the beginning of the season, an afterthought. Like it's not even just an improvement from last year to this year. It's an improvement from the beginning of the year and last year to now. Like, who would have thought? I was just on live with Ashley, right? And we were like, who would have thought we would be talking about Ambry Thomas, like, and wanting him back for the playoffs because how important he's been for this team, and it's so true. So I got to give credit to Ambry, man. He's completely turned his career around right now. I hope he keeps on with it. He's just been awesome for the team this year.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, like, there was a lot of, at the beginning of the season, a lot of people, were looking for content to do when there's not too much going on. And so a lot of people were doing, their roster, what's the word I'm looking for?
Projections.
Like who they thought were going to be on who they thought were going to make the final roster and whatnot. And a lot of people didn't even have Ambry making the roster. A lot of people thought he would get cut, or he would get traded, or he would get, cut and make his way back to the practice squad, because no other team could possibly want him either. So I mean, you have to, like, I had Ambry / Lenore on my answers, because I mean, you have to go with them, right? Like, what they went through for Lenore to be able to just move into the slot and play in there, play nickel like it was nothing, even though he prepared the entire offseason to be the starting outside corner. For that to even be possible, Ambry had to step up from the depths of wherever he was in and pull himself out and become a hell of a starting, like, yeah, he wasn't perfect. He didn't have a perfect season by any means, but man, he was good enough to lock down the second receiver most games, and he was never the reason why we lost a game. So, like, man, like, he played great. Like, I'm so, like, proud, that we drafted those two kids. And like you said, their ups and downs on this team, like, have been crazy, from, oh, these guys, we drafted them to be the stars, to be the studs. They're both going to start. They're going to be the guys. And it was like, kind of like, okay, what are these guys, like, on the bench, both benched at the same time, and man, like, they've had a hell of a season. So shout out to them. And obviously, I think Charvarius Ward has a lot to do with that too. Obviously the coaching of Steve Wilkes being, a secondary guy. The rise of Charvarius, I think, has to do obviously with Steve Wilkes too. And then it kind of just like flows from one guy to the next, and it seems like they're all flourishing off of that. So you love to see it. How about the opposite, the player that didn't live up to your expectations? And obviously this can be different for everybody because it's your expectations. Somebody that you expected more from.
I'm going to be honest, I expected more out of Drake Jackson this year. And I know he got hurt, mid-season, but I don't think the 49ers even in the market for Chase Young, for Randy Gregory, at the trade deadline. If Drake Jackson has a season that we kind of expected him to have. I know not everyone expected him to have a good season, but I was really hoping he'd make that second year leap. I was really hoping. And especially after the week 1 game, he had the 3 sacks. I know a lot of people were like, yeah, those were all like cleanup sacks. And yeah, they were, but I just thought like, oh, but he was in position. Like,
exactly.
So that's the way I looked at it. Clearly, yeah, they're probably just, he probably just looked into those. But yeah, I was a little disappointed by Drake Jackson's season. Hopefully, he can come back stronger after this injury, and have a better year next year, because the 49ers, I'd love for them to have better edge depth, and have a great number 2. You don't know if Chase Young's going to be back with this team next season. So, yeah, hopefully Jackson could be that guy eventually.
Hey, Sin. That's a good one, because I too was expecting, like, him to be the guy opposite Bosa. And like, man, I don't know, because I mean, yeah, we could say, yeah, he got injured, so it took his season. But I mean, if we're being honest, even before he got injured, he was playing like shit and kind of lost his spot playing time more and more to Cleveland Farrell as time went on, so yeah, hopefully we do see him bounce back. And because they said all off season too, like, he spent the whole off season there. He was there working, he was there this, and it's like, so
best shape of his life,
right? Yeah.
Best shape of his life season. Beware.
Yeah. Man. I'm going with somebody on the same position, but the opposite side in Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
When you come off of a defensive player of the year season, and then you get paid the highest of any non-quarterback in the entire football league, and you show up and you had the season that you had, it's just not good enough. And, you know, like, yeah, he didn't have a horrible season, but you're supposed to be the guy out there having, you know, wrecking havoc. Like, you've turned on the Pittsburgh Steelers film, you're going to see Watt wrecking havoc play in and play out.
Even Max
when the
Crosby.
game's on that line, that you can guarantee he's coming over and getting a hold of that quarterback. You turn on the Browns film, the same with Myles Garrett. Play in, play out. Don't take a play off. When the game's on the line, you can count on him. And just time after time after time, like, I just like, okay, Bosa, this is your time. Like, we need you to make a play now for us to win this game. And he doesn't. Like, and you can't tell me, oh, he's getting double teamed, he's getting triple teamed. Garrett and Watt are getting triple and double teamed at higher rate than anybody else in the league. And they're out there making plays every single play. They're paid to be the guy, and they're the guy. Bosa's getting paid to be the guy. Be the fucking guy. Like, you didn't show up to all off-season shit. That's on you. You know, like, so you use half the fucking season to get ready for the season? Well, the season started a long time, bucko. Long time ago.
Not like, bucko.
So for these playoffs, like, that bucko better show up. Like, this is like, you're getting paid. You had the whole season now to get in football shape, to do whatever the hell you needed to do to get in Bosa shape, for Bosa to be ready to wreak havoc. Do it. Like, fuck, stop falling asleep. Like, I don't know, like he's winning. He won the media award today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Nick Bosa wins the media award. The guy that doesn't fucking even talk wins the media award. And we can't get him out there to get sacks. Like, that's supposed to be his job, like sacking the quarterback. But he's winning media awards. So, you know, maybe we paid him millions of dollars to win media awards. I don't know. Looking back, your favorite play of the season?
Oh, okay. It's gonna involve Brock Purdy. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to remember like one of the better throws that he made. I think it was to Brandon Ayuk. It was like 40 something air yards. Just any time that Brock throws far, I'm like, that's my favorite play. Yeah. That throw by Purdy that made Kyle mad, said Vito. Oh, yeah. Purdy to Ayuk through 4 defenders in Seattle. That was a good one as well.
Yep. That was good. I went with Purdy to Ayuk, the Ayuk 76-yard touchdown. Because, you know, and those that have seen my shows already know, but like, Ayuk is my guy. So to have him begging for seasons to get the deep ball, and for all the nonsense behind Brock Purdy, he doesn't have the arm, he don't have the arm strength, he blah blah blah, you know, for him to actually be able to put that ball out there, and them to, at the time, like, it finished the season as the second longest touchdown of the season, but at the time was the number 1 longest touchdown of the season. Like, was just a great moment for both of them, I thought. And like, I felt like after that, like, we kind of just seen Ayuk, like, just both of them, like, they're like, okay, we got this. And that connection, like, has just been growing all season long. And I'm loving it. I'm loving that, you know, we finally get to have that quarterback, number 1 wide receiver, like, chemistry relationship, you know, like, we finally get to have this stuff that, you know, winning teams, nice teams get to have. I think that was, let me see.
So I literally, I went back, Miriah, and I was like, I've tweeted whenever there's been like a really awesome throw from Brock Purdy, there's only been like 2 times this season that I was like, that was Brock Purdy's best throw. Like, and one came in November 19th. So what game was that?
November 19th.
Here, let me
Is that the game before Thanksgiving?
Yeah, okay, so that was against the Bucks. So it was against the Bucks. That I think that was one of the ones too.
That's the game the 76-yard touchdown was.
Okay, yeah. That was the one IU, right?
Yep.
That's it. Okay, so that was one. And then I think there's like the week after that or 2 weeks after that, like I didn't tweet that I thought it was the best throw, but it was up there too. And I was trying to remember which one it was, but yeah.
This is a good one, Dave.
He's had some. He's had that too. I know we're always thinking about the offense, but the defenses have had some good plays this year too. That hit on Devontae Smith was definitely,
especially because like now, so many times, and I was still so worried. Like anytime there's like a hard hit or like it could be legal as could be, but I'm just like expecting flags to come because like anytime there's a hit of some violence, like God forbid. So like sure enough, like when that hit came, I'm like, yes. And then I'm at the same time like, oh my God, please don't flag him. Please don't flag him. And it's just like to be able to hit somebody and be able to hit them legally and kind of just like take their soul out of them, when you're out there, like that's what you want from your defense.
Yep.
That's all we really have. We don't have a game to get ready for, so there's not too much to talk about. Kind of just wanted to, get to look back on the season, get to appreciate some things. I do want to take this time to say thank you to all the guests that we had on this season for Through Her Eyes. They were all great. Those ladies are very knowledgeable. It was very fun chopping it up with all of you. We're very grateful for each of you giving us your time and coming on here and talking football with us. Hopefully next season we'll be able to find more. That'll continue to be the goal, will be to grow that segment and have more lady content creators on here to be able to talk football with us. So yeah, hats off to them and shout out to them, because obviously without them we couldn't do that segment at all. And so me and Steph definitely appreciate it. Steph too, shout out to you for our first full official season of the regular season for the Two Goats show. It's been a hell of a season. I've had so much fun doing this with you. The chat continues to be amazing. The mods, everybody that continued to keep this show going. The chat, you guys always, your guys' questions, your guys' comments, you guys being in here to say whatever you got to say, this show runs so much better when we have your participation and you guys in here with us. So definitely hats off and appreciation off to all of you. Any closing thoughts, Steph, before we get out of here? What else you got going on?
Well, today this was my last show, my third one of the day. So like my shoulders and neck are ready for a break sitting in this damn chair. But tomorrow I might do a live, just kind of undecided. We'll see what happens. And then definitely going to be doing a live when we find out who the 49ers are going to be playing next week. So stay tuned. I guess we just gonna have to turn on those notifications for the channel to know when I'll go live.
Yep. With that being said, if you're watching on my channel and you're not already subscribed to Steph's channel, please go to the description box of this video, click on the link and hit the subscribe button for Steph's channel, and vice versa, please. We definitely appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll have a game to be prepared for. Then we'll know who we're playing. So it'll be great. I know, Sin, this season went by so fast. Like, I feel like it seriously flew by. But yeah, we'll see everybody back here next Thursday, 3 Pacific time for the Two Goat show. Make sure you guys are subscribed, have those bells on for both channels so you guys can catch the other shows that we do throughout the week. But yeah, appreciate all of you. Much love. Everybody stay safe out there. Until next time, we're out of here, faithful.
Peace.